Let's talk more about President Xi's visit to Cambodia, and for that, we're joined by Sourabh Gupta. Sourabh is a senior Asia-Pacific International Relations Policy Specialist at the Institute for China-American Studies. Sourabh, always good to talk with you. Thanks for coming in.
Nice to see you, Sean.
Okay, let's talk about some of the highlights of President Xi's visit to Cambodia. This trip really making a real effort to talk about the bonds of friendship, strong, respectful. Why is it so important to focus on those bonds, that relationship, right now?
I think it's important to focus on a very well-rounded relationship with a country, and in this case, a country with Cambodia. Of course, you want to have good economic exchanges, political exchanges, people-to-people ties. It's not possible with every country, and especially as you go further away, the distance is a challenge. Cambodia is close by to China, and the relationship is very well-rounded and comprehensive. And that's why I think it's important that it is played up so much, because where are the other countries where there is where one can talk of so much cultural sharing and cultural relationship between the two countries? I think that is part of the reason. I think the Chinese side wants to go out and show that whether you're a big country or a small country, the links that bind us are multiple, are numerous, and it doesn't come down to anything like it's essentially a matter of deepening the relationship as comprehensively as possible.
Yeah, sir, but also I think everybody's probably looking at the difference between the way China is reaching out to its allies, its friends, and the way the United States has. Now, China is Cambodia's biggest trading partner, and Xi's trip is focused a lot on trade and infrastructure. What do you think we can expect from this trip?
I think, Cambodia-China relations are very well grounded on the economic and infrastructure side. I think it's encapsulated by what is called the two corridors. It's the industrial and tech corridor and the fish and rice corridor, and what's called the Diamond Hexagon cooperation framework, which is wide-ranging framework from politics and security to economics, trade, agriculture, manufacturing, and of course, culture and people-to-people ties. And I think what the two sides want to do is deepen those ties and frameworks and integration between the two parties. Remember, Cambodia is a tiny country. It is dependent on export markets. The primary export markets are in the West, and it's currently being tariffed at one of the highest rates among all the countries as per President Trump's reciprocal tariffs. Cambodia obviously needs alternative markets, and it needs to depend on other countries which can serve as growth engines for Cambodia's own development and for regional development. The ASEAN region is perhaps one of the best growth engines that we have in the world today. Cambodia, China depend on ASEAN, and ASEAN depends on China too. And that's why I think the important aspect of this trip is to talk about continuity, stability, and deepening relations across the board, but particularly in economic, trade, and infrastructure at a time when Cambodia is going to be hit pretty hard by America's trade actions.
Yeah, and one thing I think that we're hearing from experts, instead of trying to compete or dominate a nation, China's message is all about working side by side, developing peacefully, and making sure that no country is basically left behind. So what has been Cambodia's response to this approach, this outreach?
I think Cambodia's response has been very welcoming. I mean, trade interaction is the ultimate in win-win cooperation in terms of sharing comparative advantages and using it to reciprocal benefits. Cambodia one has to remember, has had a difficult history, difficult modern history. It's still a poor country. It's still trying to grow its way out to prosperity, just the way many of its peers in ASEAN did so. And therefore, it's a challenging time for Cambodia when the globalized environment, which was so facilitative of trade and economic exchange, is at some levels collapsing, especially in terms of its export markets. So I think Cambodia welcomes China's investment and infrastructure, and I would Zoom, Cambodia hopes that China can itself become an advanced economy with a significant consumption potential so that many of those goods from Chinese invested factories in Cambodia can then be shipped back to China as final goods for consumption. That will make China happier, wealthier, more satisfied, and Cambodia obviously richer and move up the value chain and be able to attain the goals that it has always wanted to for a long period of time, but has been held back because of its troubled history.
And indeed, China hearing what it wants to from Cambodia in the sense that Cambodia has made it clear that it is standing firm on supporting the one China policy. How important is that?
Oh, I think it's very important. Unfortunately, the Taiwan Strait issue is the one issue which could really collapse development and prosperity in the Asia-Pacific region. Nobody wants that. Each of these countries in ASEAN and most in emerging Asia still see 25, if not 50 years of prosperity ahead of them. They do not want people to push the envelope on the Taiwan issue. And I think the Cambodia, as well as Vietnam and Malaysia, are very clear on the one China policy so that we have very clear lines drawn which are not crossed, because at the end of the day, that one China policy and upholding that one China policy is also part and parcel of maintaining the region's prosperity.